Hey, welcome back to Say It Real, the place where fluency starts with real conversations. And today, we're walking straight into one of those phrases people love, hate, and secretly repeat to themselves at 2 a.m.
Yeah, the phrase is simple, but the emotions around it are not simple at all because the moment life goes wrong, somebody almost always says, everything happens for a reason.
And depending on your mood, that either sounds comforting or it sounds like you want to hand them a cup of tea and ask them to leave.
Right, because sometimes it feels wise and sometimes it feels suspiciously shiny, like a sentence that arrived fully dressed while your real life is still sitting on the floor in sweatpants.
Exactly. Some pain is not ready for pretty language. Some pain is just there, looking messy, being loud, ruining your snacks, and refusing to explain itself.
And that's why this topic matters so much because the sentence is not only about comfort, it's about loss, confusion, hope, timing, healing, and the human need to make chaos feel less random.
And before we get into it, if you enjoy learning through conversations that sound real, subscribe to Say It Real. Give this episode a like and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.
Yes, do that because we're building a space where English feels natural, thoughtful, and alive. And today's conversation is one of those episodes that might stay with you for a while.
Okay, so let's begin with the big question. Why do people want so badly to believe that everything happens for a reason?
I think it's because I don't know why this happened is one of the hardest emotional places to sit in. It feels open, unfinished, and strangely cold.
Yes, your mind keeps looking for a handle, something to grab, because uncertainty is exhausting. It's like standing in fog and trying to guess where the road went.
Exactly. When people can't find an explanation, they start searching for a pattern, not always because they're philosophical, but because meaning can feel safer than randomness.
Even a painful answer can feel easier than no answer at all. That's the weird part. Sometimes people would rather hear a hard truth than sit with a blank wall.
Because a blank wall gives you nothing back. No lesson, no direction, no shape. Just a terrible feeling that life can turn without warning and never explain itself.
And honestly, most people are not asking for a grand speech from the universe. They just want something small to hold on to. Like, okay, this hurt, but maybe it's not meaningless.
Right. Maybe that phrase begins there, not in certainty, but in emotional survival, in the hope that the pain is connected to something larger than the moment itself.
That's such a good point, because hope changes the experience. If something has a reason, then maybe it's leading somewhere. Maybe you're not just falling, maybe you're moving.
And that changes your perception. Perception is the way you understand or interpret an experience. Two people can live through the same event and walk away with completely different meanings.
Yes, like one person sees only rejection and another person eventually sees redirection. Not immediately, not magically, but slowly, after the emotions calm down a little.
Eventually is doing a lot of work there.
It really is, because in the moment, rejection never feels poetic. It feels rude, it feels personal. It feels like life looked directly at your plan and said, no thanks.
Very disrespectful behavior from life, honestly.
Extremely. But later, some people look back and realize the thing they lost was already cracking. The relationship, the job, the friendship, the dream. Something in it was already off.
And sometimes that's why the word inevitable matters. Inevitable means something was likely going to happen anyway, even if you didn't want to see it yet.
Yeah, there are moments that feel shocking in real time, but when you look back, you notice the signs were there. The silence was growing. The joy was fading. The effort was becoming one-sided.
Or you were waking up every morning already tired of a life you were still trying to convince yourself to love.
Oof, that one landed.
Because it's true for a lot of people. Sometimes the event hurts not only because it ended something, but because it exposed something you were already avoiding.
And that can be strangely relieving later, even if it was painful then. Like the pain broke the illusion before it broke you.
That's where the phrase starts sounding meaningful to some people. Not because the experience was nice, but because it revealed something important.
But this is exactly where we need nuance, because the same sentence can feel comforting to one person and deeply irritating to another person.
Yes, nuance is those small emotional differences inside the same idea. And with this phrase, timing creates almost all of that difference.
Timing matters so much. If somebody says, everything happens for a reason, 10 years later, maybe you not. Maybe you even feel peace. But if they say it while your world is still collapsing, that hits very differently.
Because in that moment, you may not need a reason. You may need a witness. You may need someone to sit beside you and say, yeah, this hurts. I see that.
Exactly. Sometimes comfort is not explanation. Sometimes comfort is presence. No fixing, no lesson, no silver ribbon on top of the sadness, just human presence.
Honestly, I think people rush too fast into meaning because they get nervous around pain.
I agree. Other people's pain make many people uncomfortable, so they reach for language that sounds helpful, even when the real need is simply to stay and listen.
Right. They want to tidy the room emotionally before the person has even had time to cry properly.
Please heal in an organized way is basically what that sounds like.
Yes, like grief should arrive with color-coded notes and a clear conclusion slide.
But real pain lingers. It stays longer than people expect, sometimes even longer than you expect. That's what lingering means. It doesn't leave on schedule.
And some experiences stay unresolved for years. Unresolved means they're not fully settled inside you. You can function, you can move forward, but something still feels unfinished.
I think that's important because not every wound turns into wisdom on a cute timeline. Some things remain tender. Some things change shape, but they never become simple.
Yes, healing is real, but healing is not the same as neatness. Sometimes you get stronger and still feel sad when you remember.
That's such a human thing, isn't it? Being okay and not okay in the same memory?
Exactly. And that brings us to one of my favorite words for this topic, bittersweet.
Bittersweet is perfect here because some memories carry pain and meaning at the same time. You miss what was lost, but you also understand what it changed in you.
Like not getting the opportunity you begged for and later realizing the next path fit your life so much better. You still remember the disappointment, but now it sits next to gratitude.
Or losing a friendship that hurt deeply and only afterward learning what respect, reciprocity, and emotional safety are supposed to feel like.
Yes. And that kind of loss is so strange because you would never call it beautiful, but you also can't deny that it reshaped you.
That's the strange middle space right there. The pain is still pain, but it's no longer the only thing in the room.
And once pain is not the only thing in the room, a different question becomes possible. Not just, why did this happen to me, but what is this changing in me?
I love that shift so much because it doesn't erase the hurt, it just opens another door beside it.
And maybe that's where the conversation gets deeper. Because maybe meaning is not always something waiting for us at the beginning. Maybe meaning is something we create later.
Yes, that idea gives people their power back because sometimes everything happens for a reason sounds like life already wrote the lesson for you and handed you the script.
Ah, yes. The universe has a very organized life coach with a clipboard.
Exactly. Efficient, calm, and slightly annoying.
But real life usually feels slower than that, messier, more human. The meaning doesn't arrive in a neat package. Sometimes it grows quietly from what you decide to carry forward.
That's what it means to draw meaning from something. You take understanding, value, or direction from an experience, even if the experience itself was painful.
And that feels more honest to me, because it doesn't force you to call the pain good. It just says the pain doesn't have to stay empty.
Yes, you may never say, I'm glad that happened, but you might one day say, something true came out of it. I know myself better now. I protect my peace differently now. I choose more carefully now.
That's such a powerful form of healing. Not pretending the wound was lovely, but refusing to let the wound be the final author of your story.
And I think that's one of the most human things we do. We turn experience into meaning little by little, sometimes with tears still in it.
But we also have to be careful here, because once people start talking about growth, they can accidentally make pain sound too beautiful.
Yes, and that's a real problem. Not every painful event should be romanticized. Some things are simply sad. Some things are unfair. Some things leave damage that should never be turned into decoration.
Exactly. Growth can be beautiful. The pain itself is not automatically beautiful. Those are two different things, and mixing them up can make people feel guilty for still hurting.
Right, like if the experience changed you in a meaningful way, then suddenly you're expected to feel grateful for it, and that's not always emotionally honest.
No. Sometimes pain was just painful. Sometimes loss was just loss. Sometimes the only true sentence is, that should not have happened.
Thank you. I think people need permission to say that.
They do. Because acceptance is not the same as approval. Accepting something does not mean you celebrate it. It means you stop fighting the fact that it became part of your life.
That's where the phrase come to terms with becomes useful. To come to terms with something means to slowly make peace with its reality, even if you never liked it.
It's such a gentle phrase. Not I loved it, not I understand everything now, just I can carry this without it tearing me apart every day.
Yeah, that's real strength. Less dramatic than people expect, maybe, but more mature, more grounded.
Healthy acceptance is rarely flashy. It's usually quiet. It sounds like, this happened. It changed me. I didn't choose it, but I'm choosing what happens next.
And that may be the best version of the phrase, honestly. Not everything happened because it was meant to. More like, even here, I can still create meaning.
That feels kinder, less controlling, less fake, more human.
And maybe that's why this conversation matters so much for English learners too, because these are the kinds of ideas people talk about in real life, not just grammar book conversations, but emotional conversations.
Yes, these are the moments when language becomes personal, when vocabulary is not just vocabulary, it becomes how you explain heartbreak, confusion, resilience, regret, perspective, and hope.
Which is a perfect moment to say, if this kind of conversation helps your English feel deeper and more natural, subscribe to Say It Real, give us a like, and hit that notification bell.
We'd love to have you here for more real conversations like this one, because listening to natural dialogue again and again is such a powerful way to build real fluency.
Okay, before we close, let's slow everything down and do our word tour.
Yes, this is the part where we revisit some of today's key words and phrases in a relaxed way, so you can hear them again, understand them clearly, and actually remember them.
Let's start with perception. Perception is the way you see or interpret something. Example, her perception of the breakup changed over time. At first, she saw only pain, and later, she also saw clarity.
Good. Next is inevitable. Inevitable means certain to happen or impossible to avoid. Example, looking back, the ending felt inevitable. It means the signs were already there, even if they were ignored at the time.
The next word is nuance. Nuance is a small but important difference in feeling or meaning. Example, there's a lot of nuance in this topic. The same sentence can comfort one person and upset another.
Beautiful. Now let's look at linger. If something lingers, it stays longer than expected. Example, a feeling of sadness lingered after the conversation. The emotion didn't disappear quickly.
Then we have unresolved. Unresolved means not fully solved or not emotionally settled. Example, years later, the memory still felt unresolved. The person had moved on in some ways, but not completely inside.
Next is bittersweet. Bittersweet describes something that feels happy and sad at the same time. Example, seeing the old photos felt bittersweet. There was warmth in the memory, but also loss.
Now, a very useful phrase, draw meaning from. To draw meaning from something means to find value or understanding in an experience. Example, he drew meaning from a difficult season in his life. The experience taught him something real.
Another important word is transformative. Transformative means causing a deep change. Example, the experience was painful, but it was transformative. It changed the person in a lasting way.
And finally, come to terms with. This means to gradually accept something and make peace with it. Example, she eventually came to terms with what happened, not because it was fair, but because fighting the reality forever became too heavy.
Those are such strong words because they help you speak about life in a deeper way, not just in a correct way.
Exactly. And when you can name your feelings precisely, your English becomes more powerful, more expressive, and honestly, more real.
So maybe the takeaway from today is not that every painful thing arrives with a clear reason attached to it.
Maybe the takeaway is that people need space before they need answers, truth before they need slogans, and time before they can make meaning.
And when meaning does come, it may not come like lightning. It may come quietly, in the form of a stronger boundary, a wiser choice, a softer heart, or a clearer understanding of who you are.
Yes, not all pain becomes beautiful, but some pain becomes useful. Not all loss makes sense, but some loss changes your direction. And even when life feels random, you still have a voice in what it becomes inside you.
That, to me, is a hopeful thought. Not fake hope, not shiny hope, real hope. The kind that sits beside reality instead of trying to cover it.
And honestly, that's the kind of hope I trust.
Same here. And if this conversation stayed with you, tell us in the comments. Do you believe everything happens for a reason, or do people create the reason later?
Ooh, that is such a good question. Slightly dangerous, but very good.
The best kind.
Thanks for spending this time with us. Keep listening closely, keep noticing real English in real emotions, and keep giving yourself permission to grow slowly.
And before we go, subscribe to Say It Real. Give this episode a like and hit the notification bell so you can keep learning with us through conversations that actually sound human.
Take care of your English, take care of your heart, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.